I'm not scared to admit that I've never been a Toyota Fortuner fan. They might be versatile, they might be very good off-road, but they were always also very funny looking, with an interior that wouldn't look out of place in the 80s, and they were not very nice to drive. That said, I am prepared to admit that that opinion is not the most popular. Certainly not among the many people who are in the market for a car like the Fortuner. Judging purely on the number of the things on our roads, it outsells everything in its class by quite some margin. And Toyota have enjoyed that advantage for quite some time, but things are changing. And that's a good thing for a lot of reasons, primarily because people who are in the market now have a wider variety of better choices. Things like the Ford Everest, which we quite enjoyed when we drove it last year. And now, finally and at last, Toyota have replaced the funny-looking Fortuner. This new generation is certainly not funny-looking on the whole. The design is all new, with not a single idea from the previous generation making the cut. As a result, it's cleaner, more together, and altogether better. From particular angles, the front can look a little pinched and awkward, just like its Hilux cousin. But overall, this is a vast improvement over what has gone before. The profile and the rear are particularly nice. Toyota have introduced elements that slim it down, disguise its bulk to an extent, and at the same time give it a genuine appeal. On looks alone, I'm almost a Fortuner convert. For me, the Ford Everest has the more bush-ready looks, but this Toyota definitely has its own charm. When Toyota launched the new Hilux, they introduced a much more luxurious car-like interior, and the Fortuner benefits from that as well. So there's nice leather, a touchscreen infotainment system, and climate control. And while it is a very comfortable cabin, it also raises a few questions. Like, why, amongst all this leather and good plastic, have they insisted on sticking to the awful fake wood trim? The new Fortuner had the perfect opportunity to toss it out with the rest of the 80s inspired bits and make the interior properly up to date. There is another question we'll get to shortly, but for now we'll concentrate on the rest of the comfort and convenience in here. There are a few things the Fortuner has got spot on, like the layout and the ergonomics. Couple those to a generally high spec level, and what you have is a very nice cabin. Versatility has always been a strong suit of this car, and it retains all of that, including the 7-seat layout. Which, while convenient, raises that other question. Why stick with this idiotic chicken wing design for the third row? We asked Toyota, and they said it's so if you don't want to use those seats, you can take them out. Which is fine, but what's wrong with designing them so they pack away into the boot floor like every other manufacturer in the world, instead of compromising the boot space for those who only use them occasionally? Fortunately, that's the end of this car's downsides, and that's perhaps because everything else is new. Nothing's been carried over from the previous flawed generation. So, the engine, the gearbox, the suspension, it's all been designed for Toyota's new generation cars. Some of it you may be familiar with, the GD-6 diesel engine for example, which we drove in the new Hilux at the start of the year. The 2.8 unit puts out 130 kilowatts and 450 newton meters, driving the front wheels through a 6-speed automatic gearbox. All-wheel drive with low range can be selected via a dashboard switch. Well, maybe I was a bit hasty in saying that nothing else had been carried over from the previous generation, because when it comes to off-road, this car has lost nothing. The new Fortuner gets a new frame that, along with the body, has been reinforced. The suspension has been reworked, the power steering has been recalibrated, and it now gets underbody protection as well. All of which will come in very useful because the Fortuner is one of those SUVs that actually goes off-road. Fortuner drivers are among the best at using both sides of this car's character. It copes well with the daily grind, but will also quite happily step off the tar and onto some rougher terrain. Like, for example, Sani Pass. We took our test car up and down this legendary slice of mountainside, and while a dry surface meant that low range wasn't ever called on, it's still a good challenge for any all-wheel drive SUV, and the Fortuner was more than capable. fact, I'd say it's got more ability than its drivers, most of whom will keep this car on tar, where it is a little less impressive but no less capable. It's got good power and it is easy to handle, although I would say that the automatic gearbox with its shift panels can feel a little bit old school. The shifts themselves can take some time and it's not always the quickest to react. That said though, it's certainly competent, and the reworked suspension means the big Toyota delivers a great balance of off-road ability and on-road manners. Even on a 7-hour stretch from Joburg to Sani Pass, it was never an effort behind the wheel. It served up a comfortable, easy drive. While putting this story together, I was quite surprised to discover something. If you want to buy a 7-seat diesel automatic 4x4 with low range and your maximum budget was 600,000 Rand, which is what this Fortuner costs, you don't have many options at all. The Ford Everest, this car's most obvious competition, costs 35,000 Rand more. Because of the almost cult-like status the Fortuner has, it's easy to forget that there are cars that compete against it. And frankly, I feel sorry for all of them, or both of them, as the case may be. The Mitsubishi Pajero Sport costs 50,000 Rand less, but that's also a car that was released in 2009, and so it's almost nearing the end of its current lifespan. The Chev Trailblazer costs the same as the Fortuner, but it doesn't have nearly the same status. And I guess that means that for the money you pay and the all-round ability that you get, you really can't do much better than the new Toyota Fortuner. Well, I guess that every Fortuner driver already knew that. The new Toyota Fortuner improves on the previous generation's reputation for off-road ability and now adds an everyday ease of use. While the diesel powertrain doesn't deliver thrilling performance, the ride setup and interior comfort has been vastly improved. The exterior is also now much cleaner and more attractive, all of which makes the Fortuner the top choice in its class.